you've been following Twitter lately, you might have noticed the outburst of hate on one of the most popular entrepreneurs, Mark Lowe, who made a tiny mistake. And there is a small chance that you are making the same mistake too, and it might result in you losing thousands of dollars in profit. So in this video, I'm going to show you what this mistake is and how to avoid this and other similar mistakes. But first, let's catch up with all of the Twitter drama. So what's all the fuss about? Well, it's about ShipFast. It brought several hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue for Mark, and it started a new trend, and many more people started to make boilerplates too. And due to the rising popularity of ShipFast, many people tried to take it down, and some of them managed to do it. In this case, it wasn't as bad as it could be. Due to the outburst of hate that happened, you might have thought that it was some kind of a life-threatening, huge mistake, or somebody lost like crazy amounts of money. But no, all that happened was that some guys managed to get free access to the boilerplate, which meant some lost revenue for Mark. Sure, not optimal, but just imagine what would have happened if ShipFast was not a one-time payment product, but rather a service. Hundreds of people, if they started to use the service, they would burn through so much cash and they wouldn't pay anything. That's an easy path to bankruptcy. But enough talking, let me show you the vulnerability so you can avoid it. So one of the guys that discovered it shared everything on Twitter, how he got to do it. So let's quickly walk through it. So the issue was somehow connected with Stripe and one other mistake, which is, as you can see, first of all, Mark left the Stripe success URL public. Of course, it shouldn't be really that of an issue because you should protect the success URL somehow, whether it's a authentication requirement and payment requirement. So even if somebody leaked the success URL, it shouldn't be a problem. But in this case, you were redirected to the invite page where you would put your GitHub username. And later, if you checked the post request, you could see that all you needed to do is find a user ID that was generated when you log into ShipFast, and then you could just simply give yourself access to the boilerplate. And he managed to come up with a user ID which could be found publicly on one of the pages. And I don't know really how he did it, but it's supposedly easy to do. So he managed to find it and he made a request and he got access to the boilerplate. Now Mark was very quick to patch this, so that's good for him. But one of the lessons here is, you should really check your client-side code, because if there's something on the client side that should be really happening on the server, well, you need to be extra careful and validate everything so that you don't make this small mistake and lose some revenue. But you might ask me the question, well, how do I do it? There's plenty of code. How do I find the places where I have issues? Well, let me tell you this. What are you using to write all that code? Probably AI, am I not right? So if you're using Cursor, this is my favorite AI editor right now, there's this cool feature called Codebase Scan. So basically you insert a prompt into the chat and then hit Command Enter on Mac, I believe, and the AI will scan your whole code base. And you can just ask it where is some client-side code that should be extra verified, and it will just print it out to you, and you can ask it to fix it for you if there are some issues. Pretty amazing, right? But I think there are a few more mistakes that you should look for in your app to ensure that you are as secure as you can. So let's quickly go through them. The most obvious one might not be harmful at first glance, but it might bring some problems to your users, like app crashes or something like that. So all of the users like to try and break your stuff, right? What you should do to avoid that is provide some good input validation. Just take a look at this code. If you have a field where you want to update somebody's age and you don't validate it at all, somebody might put a crazy number there, and if you have some kind of logic related to the age, well, that might crash instantly. So a very simple if statement before sending the data to the database or just making a function with it will prevent from all these mistakes. But that is the easiest and the least harmful way somebody might try to exploit that bug. There's a much worse way that somebody can do it, which might lead to you losing your data. And if you're storing something sensitive, well, then you've got some serious issues. The threat is SQL injection. Most modern frameworks protect you from it right off the box, but it's still worth checking. And the easiest way to avoid it is to use parameterized queries. So take a look at this example. Look at these two queries. The first one might look really appealing because you use the $sign with brackets and you just insert the data right into the string. And the second one uses question marks, which looks kind of weird at first. And why is that effective? Well, they separate SQL code from data inputs. With parameterized queries, placeholders, these question marks, are used in the SQL statement instead of directly using the input to treat them strictly as data and not executable SQL code, making it impossible for an attacker to inject malicious SQL code. Luckily, most of you aren't going to use this kind of approach anyway, because you'll be using an object relational mapper like Prisma or Drizzle, so you don't have to worry about writing SQL, but it's still worth mentioning if you're one of the old school guys. Inputs is one thing, but if you're letting your users upload files, you need to sanitize them too. And there are existing tools from the big companies that have AI models trained to strictly try and discover if there is something not appropriate in the files that are being uploaded. So these tools are Google Cloud Vision, AWS Rekognition, and Microsoft Azure Content Moderator. And what's cool is that you can take the docs from their page and put them into Cursor, and you will have a built implementation in just a few minutes. So let's take a quick look at a code snippet with AWS Rekognition. So first we'll make the clients and we'll write a function to detect explicit content in the image. We'll pass it to the API and we will get a result, and we will not upload that file to our database if it doesn't follow the guidelines. It's really simple and it might save you from being charged with I don't even want to know what, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Now this next mistake might turn out to be the most costly one. So you probably heard stories of entrepreneurs waking up with a $10,000 bill on their cloud account, and all of that could be easily avoided if they just wrote a few additional lines of code. And I'm talking about rate limiting. The most common mistake that they make is it's usually a DDoS attack, or they made some kind of a recursive call to the database, and due to lack of rate limiting, it didn't stop just going over the limits of spending. So let's take a look at a simple API call. In this one, we're just going to send some kind of a string. And as you can see, somebody might make thousands upon thousands of calls and we will be charged. And, you know, cloud providers really like to shrunk the limits as low as possible so they can get extra money from you. So we need to make sure that we rate limit all of our APIs and we don't get exploited. And that can be done with many tools. There is a tool from Vercel called Kivy, and there is also a simple tool with Express rate limit. As you can see, this is the example. You can make a rate limit and set the window and the max amount of requests and send a message, and it will automatically put a limit on your API, and nobody is going to exploit this. If you watch this video before even starting building your startup, make sure to watch this one, which will show you how to create your own reusable boilerplate for your next SaaS. And now you know how to build it, and you'll also know how to build it safely. I'll see you in the next one.